just so you know. All right. Well, welcome to Jennifer Jesseph's Artist Talk for Who Is She?
That's
My name is Pamela Hugdahl. I am the director here at the Rochester Art Center, where we're proud to be presenting Jennifer Jesseph along with 5 other exhibitions. The Art Center is free through May 9th, so please come in and see these works in person. We're free. Thank you to the City of Rochester and the Public Works Department for the We Are Water exhibition, which is also here through May 9th. And Jennifer Jesseph's exhibition is on view through July 11th. So don't wait, make sure to come in soon, but we're really pleased to have her work as part of this, this moment. And I also wanted to let you know that we have an open house this Saturday from 11 to 4. So a little bit more activity. Of course, masking and social distancing will be a part of that event. So let's see here. And then I wanted to also mention that our hours are Wednesday through Sunday, 11 to 4. So make sure to come in soon. Okay. Moving on to the next order of business. So I also want to thank CMAC, Southeastern Minnesota Arts Council, for supporting artists like Jennifer Jesseph through our Rooted program. We have 3 artists currently on view through that program, so it's a really major part of our exhibitions. And we can't thank CMAC enough for their generosity to these artists that are working with us. This is also made possible through voters of Minnesota and legislative appropriation from the Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund. The Rooted program is open to artists living and working in 11 counties surrounding Rochester and showcases the most innovative and talented artists from the region. Rooted exemplifies the commitment of Rochester Art Center to be a cultural hub for art made in southeastern Minnesota. All right, so Jennifer Jesseph is a poet and self-taught fiber artist and in mixed media, living in rural Pine Island, Minnesota. Jennifer has been working on fiber art in the 2-dimensional form for the past 4 years, and she enjoys working in abstract portraits and is currently working in watercolors, acrylics, and oil paints. Through her portraits, she aims to empower both the subject and the viewer, and I'm sure we will be finding out a lot more about that tonight. So thank you so much, Jennifer, and thank you everybody for being here, and I will pass the mic over to you.
Sure. Yes, just to reiterate, thank you everybody for taking time to come. I really, really appreciate it. Got it. Yay! Yay. All right. Yeah. And now, oh, this is advancing already. Who is she? Here it is, all set up. They did a beautiful job putting it together at the Art Center, and I got the title from wondering, well, I don't know if it came from Lilly Yokio, or I think it was honestly from somebody else that I was going to talk about, the one who was in anti-slavery. Okay, so those are some smaller pictures of it, and I'll just kind of keep going like that. This is a quilt that was part of the grant to make. That is probably one of the things I'm most proud of. And thanks to my mentors, Susan Cizik was super helpful with that. And she was my quilting mentor. And I would like to learn more about it because I literally cannot remember how we did that border. And that is what I would like to be able to do. So I've got to go back and learn that again. But there's a couple of faces on the quilt. You might, if you see it closer up, and I can't make that come up closer, but this is Brianna Taylor. And this is the lady from, and it's right so newsworthy right now, Myanmar, and I cannot say her name. She's that prime minister. And I had finished making her portrait, and then I started reading more of her history, and I went, not not sure what I'm going to do with you, because you'd have to look into it. It's very complicated. And I had a really nice talk with Susan one day about how you can have many aspects to your life, and she's very much revered and she was under house arrest for years, but there's more to it than that. So anyway, there it is. Oh, now it is more in, you can see that one's a little bit more like her, and that looks like Brianna. The rest of them are just abstract and, just from imagination. Oh, there she is. That's Sarah Grimke. And this is probably the one if I have to have a favorite, it's one of the favorites. The favorite is the one you just did. But she's very interesting, I find, because she and her sister were very outspoken against slavery. And you don't hear about them really too much in the history of people who were anti-slavery, or that bigger word that is just escaping me. But for their time period, they were just so amazingly outspoken. And she was a Quaker, and I think even she got to be so outspoken. I'd have to go back and look at the history. I think the Quakers were like, didn't even have her after a while. They were like, no, you're a little too much. Like, not everybody's equal. Come on, stop it. And she really believed in that. I know, right? But her younger sister was more of the spokesperson, and she did more of the writing. But they did both speak, and they were so radical at their time. They had death threats, and yeah. And so I'd like to see her in some history books. I had listened to a historical fiction book about her, and I just couldn't believe I'd never heard of her. Oh, okay, wait, I'm going too fast. There's a touch thing here with this. Okay. Yeah, this is somebody I didn't know anything about until I talked to one of my advisors, Amarama. Amarama gave me names of other people to fill it in, because once I got the grant, I knew I wanted to do at least 16. And this is April Dunn. And she sadly passed away just about a year ago from coronavirus, but she was very outspoken, and especially in Louisiana, for people with disabilities. And she herself had a disability and was denied a diploma, a high school diploma. I mean, and it's really kind of a sad story that way, but her work has helped change that. And I don't think they have that bad practice anymore going on, because I think she had like passed everything, like had all her credits, but maybe didn't pass some of those tests or something. I don't know, but we need to have many pathways to getting that diploma than just the testing. And she was a very loving person and knew her friends' birthdays, and so she's deeply mourned when she passed away. Okay, that is Ashley Filick, who is deaf, culturally deaf, they call it, and a rock star in the world of BMX bike riding, right? But it's surprising. It's like those two don't seem to go along. This picture down of her was from an older picture of her when she had really colorful hair. I don't know that she looks like this anymore. And in fact, she's retired from doing that kind of riding. She's not. But she has been a stunt person, and maybe still does a little bit of that. I'm not sure. I think there's a shelf life for how much your body can take with some of that stuff. But what an interesting person, and an American athlete, and a great example of what you can do. I mean, her parents were able to channel her interests, and she got some major awards in her area of what she did. So she's still living, so that's kind of nice. Sarah Grimke is, alas, passed away quite a while ago. That is Emma Gonzalez. And she's a rising young activist. She was one of the survivors of the shooting in down in Florida, Stoneman. I can't remember the whole name, Stoneman something, but she gave a very important impassioned speech calling out BS about where money is spent and guns. And she's a very important youthful voice. And she's somebody to watch. Like, what is her career where is she gonna go? Is she gonna, I wonder what she's doing right now, because she was like 18 when she gave that speech, and really put the NRA a little bit to task, she and some other people talking and getting some, speeches out there. So she'll be one to watch, somebody who knows where they'll go next. Yes, this is a very important congresswoman whose name is escaping me. I should know her name. But she's part of the reason that we have Title VI nowadays. And she helped write that legislation. She's from Hawaii. Patsy Mink, or Minsk, I can't say her name correctly. She's from Hawaii, and she worked in the House of Representatives for many, many, many years. And it was some doing, and with other people. She's not the only one, but she was a driving force in getting that passed. So the result, we have women's basketball. Maybe it doesn't get the professional part of it, doesn't get the glories that the men's does. And we just had in the news about the discrepancy between, I don't remember which athlete team, what they were doing, but the locker, the weight area, the women's was just kind of like this, not even very good. So there's work to be done, yes, yet. But, she's certainly important. And so she really knew how to work across the aisle with lots of people back when they used to cooperate, and maybe that'll come back into the fashion, we can hope. This is a portrait of, and I do like this one too, very, 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 very much. This is a Somali Minnesotan here, Ifra Mansour, who's was a refugee, and she even had a one-woman show in the Art Center called How to Have Fun in a Civil War. And so she may not be super wide known, but I think that kind of thing is so important for Minnesota to broaden its scope of immigration. And we're getting past this, the immigrants who were Irish and Scandinavian. Those roots are very important, but they're well documented. And now it's time to turn our eyes to the Hmong immigrants that have come to Minnesota and what their contributions are, and the Somali, and there's so many more, Karen. And this is near and dear to my heart because I've worked with refugees my entire teaching career. So I felt really important to get somebody who represents that, and Minnesota too. And one thing when I was doing this, I really tried to be broad. I tried to get as many continents involved as possible, and I was pretty good about that. So if you trace her roots back, then we've got Africa, which is a huge continent, and Lilly Yokio, I think, actually lives in Japan. So we've got a little bit of Asia there. Oops, wrong way. Yeah. Learning new technology. Okay, and I don't know, is that the end of that may be the end of it, because I don't feel anything else coming up here. Sorry, I just kind of keep going back and forth there. It's funny. I think that might have been the extent of what I had to say, but like I said, I'm very grateful. Like Greg Finnegan is here. He was important in helping me learn how to frame. This one's not in one of his, we don't see those frames here. That's probably the hardest thing for me in doing this whole thing. The biggest thing I learned is think about your frame first if you're gonna frame this. I thought about it last, and Greg knows, and he did all this super math to get it into the right size. Like, literally, I didn't know that that's how you would do that. I always thought about the person in the picture and the story first. But I also when I do things, it's kind of fire, ready. Oh, aim first. Then you fire, aim. So now I know aim, frame. So if I ever did another show, I would think about that. And I appreciate so much more about framing and the whole process. And that's an art in and of itself. Like, I don't think I can ever do that again. Okay, I make frame, like the custom frames. Greg, I would hire Greg to do it. So shout out to you, Greg. And I think I can stop sharing because I think that's the end of the presentation. I guess I should know that part, but yeah, I don't always know those things. And yeah, they don't exactly look like every person, and that would be a photograph. It's a little more on the abstract end of things. And although I did work really hard to try and make them look most as I could of what they are, but the main goal of this was to get people to know a little bit more about some of these people in history and that are living now and that are important. And I didn't include Lilly Yokio in this, but she should be considered a great American athlete because she could do these amazing tricks on her golden bicycle in high heels. And yeah, she was the highest paid circus act, like in through the 70s, maybe early 70s. And I've seen it where she was way up in age and she was still doing some of this stuff, like getting on her handstand on the bicycle, like I wouldn't do that, but she can. So we should know more about some of these people that have really made some serious contributions, and they all have. Anyway, I will end it there and see if you have any questions, and I know enough to check the chat, see if there's any questions there, and you can unmute yourself and we can chat about. Whose story was your favorite to tell through your art? Oh my God, which one was my favorite? I can't even tell you. So I'll default and say like my quilt thing, that's my favorite. I don't know, they're all so interesting. I don't have a favorite. I think the one that surprised me most, she's from South America and I can't say her name right. Like I didn't know anything about her. And we should all know more about her. And I didn't even include her in there. Okay, any other questions? Okay, no, I don't see any.
Jennifer, I love the theme of your exhibit. I just think it's the coolest thing. And I love that it's a lot of unsung, unknown people. And I have been writing down the names of the ones that you mentioned. And when I come to your exhibit, I'll write them down because I want to learn more about them. I just love it. And I wanted to ask you, you've done a lot of fiber art. Have you done a lot of portraiture fiber art before, or was this new?
That was pretty new. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
No, I hadn't done much portraiture at all. So
it's cool. I just think your work looks cool. I love it.
It's a little like a thing called thread painting, but if I were going to thread paint all of these, I'd still be sitting here today. So there was no way. You'd have to look at that, see how much thread was in that. That was a lot. Oh, good question. How was it working through the pandemic as a teacher and artist preparing for the exhibition? I lost my sense of time, I think, early on. I got panicked at first because this show was supposed to take place in the fall. And I thought, how am I going to get all this done? And I got really, really nervous and I worked really, really hard on it. But we were home distance teaching a year ago. And sometimes there was downtime for me where kids weren't jumping on the call and I had called them already twice. So I was stitching sometimes while I was waiting for the next meet or something to do because I was ready to go. But so the pandemic, it threw everything off. And also the timeline on this got pushed back twice because of the pandemic. So I'm just super grateful that it got to be, because anyway. All right. You would like to know, hello, Renee, what kinds of textiles you use to create the masterpieces? Oh yeah, DMC thread, anything cheap. Stuff I find on the floor, yes. Yarn, felt, yes. I literally do find stuff on my floor. That's disgusting, full disclosure. But I have a lot of stuff, a huge stash. And then actually what I do is I use a Fixar pen, and then I would trace parts of the face and then fill. How did I work? Did I work from the face out? Yeah. Work from the face first, and then you can use heat to get rid of the pen part. And then I use their picture, and I use it on the iPad and look at it a lot, and then try to get it right. And like there was times I messed up the hair sometimes, or I messed up the lips a lot. Lips are just so hard. And I was out of certain colors, and the stores hadn't opened up yet for everything. So that was another thing. Once I remember when Joann's was open for the first time, I could go in, I got like 5 things of black because I hadn't quite finished Patsy Mink's hair, which killed my hands. Oh my God, there's so much thread in that hair. But yeah, I just use anything around, and it's nothing special, like nothing really expensive or special. But and I did try to get their skin color, which is hard with fabric, but so it's all approximation. So that's where you can say it's abstract, right? It is.
But Jennifer, I want to say that I just think it is so fabulous that you used like stitching and textiles to do your art, because I think so often, I'm a stitcher myself, and I think so often that people do not credit stitching with the artistic level that is involved in it.
Yeah.
They just assume everything else is better, but it's not, because stitching is like kind of like drawing sometimes, and you have to get it to work the right way, and you have to have the right colors, and there's just so much more to it than what people realize.
Thank you. That's really true. I would prefer it if the sewing machine could do more of it on free motion, but that wasn't going to happen because I tried it with Ruth Buffalo, and her face just looked like an old lady. And it was like, because the fabric gets too punched up. So you have to do it by hand if you don't want them to look like they're 90. But
I think doing it by hand, though, is so much better.
Thanks. Yeah.
And I also have a thought. I think the artwork comes first over framework.
Well, but
I think the frame should always work around the art. But
Greg, you can chime in.
That's my opinion.
Greg, we had some fun talks about framing. I don't know. I think honestly though, yes and no. You gotta finish the faces, but I didn't think at all about the frames. What do you think about that, Greg? Should I think about the frame first or the art? What's your opinion? Because you do both. He does watercolor and oil, a lot of oil.
A lot of oil paints. Well, I don't necessarily think about the frame first, but I do think in terms of standard sizes. So like all of Jennifer's stuff, everyone was unique size, so we couldn't make a standard frame. So we had to essentially custom make every frame on every picture.
Yeah.
So.
And I think that's the point, like a standard size, like, and I had come to that realization, like when I was 12 deep into sewing them onto fabric, like, why didn't you do that before? What were you thinking? But I would try to, I know that's maybe the more important part, like the standard size. So it's a little bit. All right, into the chat. Let's see. You talked about the challenges of working with textiles. What is the best part? The best part is when it's done and it looks like them, more or less. What brings me joy, that does. And I did it to the extent so much, and my hand was, this finger was like, girl, you got to stop. Because I had done too much of it over a short period of time because I was afraid I wouldn't get it done. So I like watercolor now because it's not so hard on my hands, but I don't know if that'll stay because I haven't been doing that lately. So after I did that for so long, I had to take a pivot away from it. I don't know if I'll do it again. Like maybe take one thing and then try to do the thread painting with it, which does take a lot longer and it fills the whole surface with thread, but I'd have to learn more about that. So yeah. Any other questions? Don't be afraid to ask something. What first incited me to create this body of work? I'll tell you, it was probably Lilly Yokio when I was like, why don't we know more about that? Like, how many more people are there that are just out there that are amazing? And it's either between her or Sarah Grimke. Because when I heard the story about Sarah Grimke, you can find only one real picture of her because there was just so little out there. Also, the other picture that's widely known of her is, I think, a caricature of her. So I just thought women need more credit for their place in history. And when people almost get sort of erased, yeah. What's next after this exhibition? I have something in mind, but I got to talk to somebody else about it. I don't know if I should say it. Should I say it? I think the next one would be a show called Who Are They? And it'd be trans people that are doing incredible stuff. Yeah, I'm getting some nods. And I did include a trans woman in the show. It's Wendy Carlos. So just to let you know, but there's so many more. And my advisor, Amaramic, had all these people. It was this beautiful waterfall of people that I couldn't, you had to hone it in on. So that, I think, would certainly be something to explore. Tell us about 2 women portraits whose stories resonate with you in a special way. Well, Lilly Yokio, I love her. Go look her up on YouTube and watch her on her golden bicycle. I watched that probably 50 times. No, not even exaggerating. She's just amazing. I don't know why I resonate with it because I can't do that, nor do I aspire to it. I don't aspire to it. So for her, she is for sure one. And I had redone her portrait more than once because I wanted to get her bicycle in it. Who else resonates with me? Well, I think as a youthful person of hope, I really am curious about Emma Gonzalez. She's just remarkable. I just feel like she's going places, and it's not like maybe she's going to be super famous. I'm not looking for that, but I think as a voice, because for that generation up and coming, I think she's going to be around. So I'm just curious. I'm always curious to see what's going to happen next. So I guess today, if I had to pick 2, those would be my 2. But then tomorrow I'll have other favorites because, when you're a teacher, you have to love them all.
I have a question from the curator, Zoe Chanel.
Yeah.
And I thought this was really interesting. She wrote, historically, portraits were a symbol of wealth and power that distinguished aristocracy and the upper class from the rest of the population who did not have control on how they were represented. Mm-hmm. How does this series push forward the field of portraiture?
Well, I think the Impressionists did that first, like Mary Cassatt, they would make portraits of the somebody in the street or fish, somebody catching fish and stuff. So I don't know. I hope it just highlights people that are important, who have done or will do or did important things. And even if they're not like this super huge thing, if it was just within their area, their state, they're important and we need to know of them. And if it's through stitching or however you can do it, that's important. And yeah, maybe it does challenge portraiture, but I kind of think the Impressionists did it first. That's my art history talking, but I don't know. All right, what are the challenges and rewards of working with fiber and mixed media? Mixed media is a lot easier because fiber is harder on my hands. But mixed media I like to sew on paper a lot. I don't know, it's just very joyful to me. I don't know, it's just really fun. I still like fiber. It isn't that I won't make any more portraits. It's just, I know I do something for a while and I got really worried that I wasn't going to get it all done somehow, that sense at times. So I overworked this hand and it is on sabbatical. It's like, girl, you cannot do that to me again. And so the challenge, I think, is like not to do too much if it's going to hurt your hand. Because I really had a blistery thing in there. And there's no way to avoid it at this age and with just doing the needle thing. So unless they find a way to like insert something in there that relieves that pressure. But they feel good. My hands feel really good right now because they got a lot of rest. Do you have a message for a younger female audience that would see the show? Yeah. Don't get imposter syndrome, or don't feel like you can't do something. Like, really, I didn't think I was going to do this 4 years ago. I got a sewing machine and it just changed everything. And I transitioned away from knitting because I had a son living in California and he isn't going to wear my sweaters that I made for him. And always be open to try new things and see if it works. And if it didn't work today, it might work tomorrow. Or if it didn't resonate now, it may resonate another time. You just never know. So I always try to keep an open mind because I never know where things are going to go. I wouldn't have thought I was going to get a grant to do this, but it worked out. And so I think women really give themselves imposter syndrome, like, oh, I'm not good enough. I need to go to art school and do that. No, you don't. You just need to practice and try it. And if it doesn't look exactly like it that you were trying to render it, just try to see it as impressionist, I guess. If that gives you any soothe of thought. But yeah, there's so many different arts you can explore, and feel free to explore. That's the message. I think so. Because my art isn't perfect, and that's just fine. That's just fine.
I love that sentiment. And it's something that really resonates with me and art, because one of the artists that really impacted me is Alice Neal.
Oh,
and,
yes.
You know, just like seeing her art, her paintings, she just decided to quit at one point, you know, like, nope, that one's done. I didn't finish the hand. It's okay.
Mm-hmm.
So I appreciate that perspective. And I want to point out that one of my colleagues inserted the link of a video of Lilly Yokio or Yokoi from 1961 in the chat. So check that out.
Yeah.
When the Art Center staff meet, we tend to wrap up our meetings now with words of encouragement and just, you know, I think that it's really exciting to hear how you approach your art. And so I don't know if you have anything you want to share with us further, or if anyone wants to say anything else to Jennifer about what you've perceived through this talk, but open up.
I just encourage everybody to do something they enjoy, whatever that is, to find a creative expression. The pandemic has taught us we need our arts, and everybody has artistic pursuit, I think so, in some way, shape, or form, and find it and pursue it a little if you like to, if it makes you happy. If it's making you miserable, at one time in my life I was writing and it was making me miserable. It's like, well, then stop it. You know, obviously. Yeah, do it for joy.
Martha, did you have something?
Well, I was going to say, but then you just said you wanted to give up writing. Jennifer, when I saw those portraits, I was thinking, you know, that would make a great little book. Those portraits and a little poem about each one, or a little story about each one. I'd buy that book.
I am going to do that. I'm going to do that. And I think my son will help me make a calendar, not a silly one, a real one with those. He's the photographer. And so, yeah, that is the idea, to make a little book out of him. And I think what's there is, I call it a slice, because you can always go find more. And yeah, but thank you. I will do that. I am going to do something like that. Work on that this summer. Yeah.
Anybody else? Got a proud mother.
Yeah, I learned how to sewing from my mom. Yeah. All right.
Oh, May, you're on mute.
You can unmute yourself, Mom.
Okay.
All right.
Great. Well, thank you everybody for joining us tonight. Jennifer, it was so wonderful to hear from you and to hear about your process. And where you've gone with it, and to know that you're sparing your hands.
They went on strike. What do you do?
Yeah.
I call them my fulfillment center. They're like, nope, not gonna do that. Anyway.
Will you be here on Saturday for the open house?
Oh, I think I can. Yeah.
Okay, it's 11 to 4, so stop in. And please, everyone, come in and see the show and come see Jennifer on Saturday.
Yay. Okay. Thanks. Thanks, Dan Wall. Good to see you.
Dan put in a quote, if you're not having fun, you're doing it wrong.
And Dan, I think I remembered writing at one point where we talked about something was making us very unhappy. I don't know what it was. And it was like, well, then don't do that. Obviously, you know, that imposter syndrome or whatever it is you think you're supposed to accomplish and it's not coming, whatever. Do a different thing. It sounds so easy. Anyway, thanks so much, everybody, for coming. Appreciate your time, and maybe you can enjoy the weather.
Thank you so much.
All
Have
right,
a wonderful
thanks a lot.
evening, and thank you for joining us at the Rochester Art Center.
Yeah.
Take care.
Bye.